Did you guys hear that? Yeah, that's MagSafe, and it's one of the many features that Apple finally added to their $599 iPhone 17e, which makes it go from a dud that it was last year to something that is easily recommendable at that $599 price point. Let's talk about it. But now before we continue, if you guys do enjoy videos like this one where we talk all things Apple products, definitely consider subscribing to the channel and help us get to 1 million subscribers by the end of the year. It's kind of interesting how Apple's now having a renaissance, but instead of it being with their ultra premium type of products like the Vision Pros or MacBook Pros or studio displays, it's actually happening on the lower echelon at that $600 price point. You guys saw the MacBook Neo and how impressive that was, and now the same thing is true about this iPhone 17e. Last year with the 16e, Apple omitted a bunch of features and made a bunch of compromises to get down to that $599 price point, but now Apple at $599 this year made a bunch of upgrades that now makes this phone way more recommendable and honestly probably the default iPhone moving forward. So to kind of contextualize this a little bit and position this, Apple's current iPhone lineup is going to look like this. You have the iPhone 17e at $599, you have the iPhone 17 at $799, and then you have the iPhone Air at $999, and then you get into the Pro and Pro Max model. But what's interesting here is how little you actually give up going from the 17e to the iPhone 17, and even when it comes to the overlap in features and functions, and also hardware that you get on the iPhone Air. So from a design standpoint compared to last year, this is going to be pretty much identical. The only real difference here is that you now have this kind of blush pink colorway, which is beautiful to see, that really matches that MacBook Neo. And I feel like Apple definitely did this on purpose to be able to color match the MacBook Neo and an iPhone 17e as kind of like that starter pack when it comes to getting into the Apple ecosystem. So from a display standpoint, you're still dealing with the same 6.1-inch display that is their Super Retina XDR display, which is a great display in its own right, but you're still dealing with a 60Hz display, and you still have the notch instead of the dynamic island, which is more so an aesthetic versus a functional difference, but it still makes it look at least a little bit outdated if you are in the tech world. Outside of the tech world, nobody really notices. If anything, I told my brother the other day that it doesn't have the dynamic island, and he asked me what that was, even though he has a phone with dynamic island, which I thought shed some light on what the average person's looking at when it comes to their iPhone. But you still get the aluminum frame, you get the action button, ceramic shield 2, you still get USB-C, IP68 water resistance, so the biggest difference when it comes to design and actual functionality on the hardware is going to be that we got ceramic shield 2, which is supposed to make it about 3 times more scratch resistant, so from a durability standpoint, it should be that much better. So that's one thing that you are compromising on. The display tech is not going to be as good as it was something that you would get on the iPhone 17 because we did get OLED, we got ProMotion, and we got 120Hz for the first time on that one. But again, for the average consumer, that's not really going to matter. And just a year prior to that, the same $800 got you this same exact display on the iPhone 16. But one big thing here is that you still are standardized when it comes to the chipset. So this is rocking the same chipset at the A19 that you're getting out of the iPhone 17 at that $800 price point. You get a 6-core CPU, a 4-core GPU, and you get the 16-core neural engine, which does allow for that hardware ray tracing, which is great to see. And if you compare that, again, to the iPhone 17, it's the same exact chip. And if you compare it to the iPhone Air, that does have the A19 Pro, but it is even throttled down because you only get one more GPU core and some better sustained performance. But overall, the chipsets are pretty much identical. So apps, games, if you use Apple Intelligence, everything's going to run just as smoothly as it does internally with this A19 when it would the same way on the A19 that's in the iPhone 17, even though this is $200 cheaper. And now for me, the biggest change here has to be the storage situation, because last year for $599, you got 128 gigs of base storage, whereas this year the base storage doubles to 256 gigs. That alone gives you a ton of value, because I believe last year to get to 256, you needed to ante up another $100, making this a $699 phone. Now it's actually gone down in price if you really think about it from that standpoint. And then another awesome thing is the camera. On the rear, the camera is going to be the same main sensor that you're getting in the $1,000 iPhone Air. It's the same main sensor that you're getting in the iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max. Again, you are only getting the one sensor, and it is a fusion camera, so you technically have 2x optical, but it's kind of internal, so it isn't really optical. Again, to each their own, but at the end of the day, it's a 48 megapixel shooter that's going to take great photos, great video. It's going to be smooth, it's going to be familiar, very easy to use, and in some good lighting, you're going to be able to take some amazing photos, and even in some low light situations, it was able to handle a decent amount. Again, it's not going to have the versatility of the Pro models with the 3 camera array, or even the versatility of having an ultra wide, but a 48 megapixel main shooter on this phone at this price point is definitely top in class. The one compromise that Apple made from a camera sensor situation here is going to be that they kept the same 12 megapixel shooter for the selfie camera that they've had in years past, versus with the iPhone 17 lineup and the iPhone Air, they added that new camera on the selfie camera, which is going to be the 24 megapixel shooter that has a square sensor, allowing you to be in portrait and landscape mode even though when you're not physically holding your phone in that direction. That does not come with the iPhone 17e, but again, that's going to be a small compromise because the selfie photos are still fine, and if you want to hold it in landscape, just hold it in landscape for that price point. And now, as you guys saw in the very beginning of the video and you heard, this finally adds MagSafe. MagSafe being omitted from the 16E was one of the weirdest things in the world because Apple has been pushing MagSafe for years, ever since the iPhone 12 lineup. They have a ton of first-party accessories. There's a whole third-party accessory market that has millions of different MagSafe accessories, so it was very weird that if you wanted to take advantage of MagSafe, you needed to get an external case to add those MagSafe rings, which is what Samsung does. But they did add MagSafe into the 17E, which not only adds the actual physical magnets for those accessories, but also doubles the wireless charging speed from 7.5 watts to 15 watts when you are using a MagSafe certified charger. So it's good to know that wirelessly you will be able to charge faster, and when you are wired in, it does top up at 20 watts of fast charging, so that is something to consider there. It's not going to charge at the fastest speeds, but you'll still be able to charge your phone in a pinch when you do wire in. And then it is nice to know that now all the MagSafe accessories that you have, whether it is charging or a wallet or some sort of case or stand, it's all going to work now natively without having to have an external case on your iPhone 17e. And then what's nice about this from a battery life perspective is that this thing is insane with battery life. The combination of having the A19 chip with the efficiency that comes with it, and then combine that with a slower and less intense display that doesn't have 120 Hz ProMotion and doesn't have to power an OLED display, you actually get great battery life out of the 17E, and it could be the battery life champ, dethroning the 17 Pro Max, but that remains yet to be seen. Wait for our long-term review to see exactly how the battery holds up. But it is rated for 26 hours of playback time. The iPhone 17 Pro Max is rated for 39 hours of playback time, but again, after some time in use, that actually has slowed down a bit in my opinion, in the way that we use it. So again, this is 26 hours of playback time. The battery is smaller, but it definitely packs a punch, and it's way above its weight class when it comes to the size of the battery and how much you can get out of it because of the display and the efficiencies of the A19 chip. So again, now this becomes a real de facto recommendation and a real entry point. Before, I believe with the 16E, you were just giving up too much at that point, right? There was no MagSafe, you had slow wireless charging speeds, you didn't have a lot of options when it came to storage, you started at 128 gigs of storage, and it just seemed like there was a lot of compromises happening with that iPhone. Now with the 17E, you are getting a lot more, and you're getting way closer to the iPhone 17 than you were before. Like I said, to kind of recap everything, you get the A19 chip, 256 gigs of storage, you get MagSafe, the 48 megapixel shooter on the rear, USB-C is still on there. Again, you can use all your MagSafe accessories. And then on the other side, if you do want to spend the extra $200, you can kind of see exactly what you're getting out of that. You're getting the better selfie camera, you're getting dynamic island, which is more of an aesthetic difference versus a functional difference. But again, the USB-C speeds are still going to be the same when it comes to data transfer speeds. You're getting the same exact A19 chip, you're getting the same exact main sensor, which is a 48 megapixel shooter. So it just depends on how much you value things like getting an ultra wide camera, being able to have dynamic island, and then of course the 120 Hz ProMotion display. If that adds up to $200 for you, then upgrade to the 17. But for a lot of people walking into an Apple store or walking into a carrier store, they see this iPhone and they see how well it works, they see everything that it has, they see how fast it is, how much storage you get. For $599, it becomes almost a no-brainer for a lot of people, especially if they just want kind of the cheapest iPhone that does everything that they need it to. And then from my testing and a performance standpoint, it handles everything. It's snappy, it's fluid. Of course, coming from 120 Hz ProMotion down to 60, you kind of see a little bit of the slowdown, but that has nothing to do with the internal chipset and more so just the hardware of the display itself. And for most people, or for anybody that has never used a 120 Hz display, you will not notice anything whatsoever, so you won't be missing anything if you get the iPhone 17e. It handled gaming very well, it didn't get warm to the touch, battery life lasted extremely well. So overall, I think Apple has a great product on their hands with the iPhone 17e, and like I said, I can finally recommend this, whereas the 16e, you were just kind of compromising too much in my opinion, especially without the MagSafe. So let me know in the comment down below what you think. Is the iPhone 17e a good buy at $599? Are you better off kind of going through the used market, maybe finding an older 15 Pro or an older 16 Pro, see if you can get it at that $600 price point? Or would you rather have a brand new Apple device that just is in that budget-friendly category? Always curious to know your guys' thoughts, but if you made it to the end, leave a little dolphin. I think the 17e, the design, the form, the function, everything about it just screams, again, premium and actual feel in the hand feels good, but you're only paying $599. Pair that with a MacBook Neo, with an Apple Watch SE, maybe even with an iPad A16. You have an awesome Apple ecosystem that's all brand new, all high quality, and you're spending less than $2,000, which in this day and age is absolutely insane. But that'll do it, everybody. If you guys want to watch more videos like this one, check out one of these videos right here. Until next time, I'm Fernando. Peace.